Welcome to the farm.
Welcome to the farm. I'm Justin. And this is my 1943 Case SC tractor that I just picked up probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago now. And ever since I picked it up, it's been sitting outside here. I got a couple little videos on it. I got a video picking it up, and I got a video of changing the oil in the engine on this thing. But today we're not going to work on it. We are going to start getting ready to find this thing a permanent home. So we're going to grab the other tractor and start clearing out the site for its home. And behind me here, where all this stuff is piled up, I think that's where it's going to be its new home. So I picked up a canvas garage. It's 13 feet wide, 20 foot long, and 10 foot tall in the center. And originally we were going to put it kind of back over by the old duck coop, keep it kind of out of the way. But as we were walking around, we decided that it would probably be better if it was closer to the barn. So that way, working on the tractor, the tools are handy. I got power close, and it'd be easier just to take parts off the tractor and move it into the barn if it was right next to the barn. And I also made Dana a deal that when I picked up the tractor, I would get this cleaned up. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone. Today, we're going to clean this up, and we're going to get the site prepped, ready for building the garage.
So we're going to start by putting away this garden fence up in the hayloft. We removed all this fencing from Dana's garden in previous videos, put links to those in the description. But once we ripped them out, we rolled them up, and that's where they ended up, so I think it's time to get them in a proper place. So now we got this water trough that we need to move. And I did drill a hole in the bottom. Originally I tried to make it into a duck pond and I couldn't get the drain to seal properly. So it ended up in the garden as Cadence's flower bed. And when we redid the garden, that had to move as well so we could do gravel work. So we ended up dumping that out. And it got set over here just like the fence. So we're going to get this put in a better spot until we find something to do with it. The tall weeds really make it hard to see what you're doing. Now I need to move this giant wire spool. I ended up with two of these I got free from work, and one of them is currently the base of my fabrication table. And once I get a new table, that'll be coming out of the barn, so I have two of these spools. I'm not sure what to do with them. I know a lot of people make them into tables. I would like to do something different with them. If you guys have any suggestions on what we can do with them around the homestead, drop me a comment and let me know. Now I can go ahead and move on to moving this big pile of wood. This pile never seems to go away. We've had it here for probably about 3 years now, I'd say at least. And every time I work on it, we get it down, and then we cut down another tree, or someone offers us some wood, and bring a whole load up, and it gets piled right there, and it never really seems to go away. So I'm going to use the pallet forks and see if I can't move this into a more discreet location so it's not so much of an eyesore. Although the pallet forks work really well for picking up the logs and stuff, I decided to go ahead and swap over to my rock bucket, give that a try, see if I can make this move a little bit quicker. Even though doing something like this with pallet forks is really good at building your loader skills, being able to pick small things up, move them around, place them, really good for that. I had a lot that I needed to move. I figured it'd be easier just to throw the rock bucket on, start scooping and hauling. This is another one of those jobs where having a grapple would have made this so much easier. The rock bucket's working great. I'm picking up a lot of material, moving it quickly. Definitely a lot better than the pallet forks. It's another thing the rock bucket is really excelling at. I'm so glad I built it. I do have plans to turn it into a grapple as well, hoping to do that this winter as long as time and budget allow. And I think it's just going to make this a great all-around tool, even better than it already is. I wasn't sure how well the rock bucket was going to work picking up logs. I thought maybe I'd have to switch back to the pallet forks when picking up the logs. Wasn't sure the way the rock bucket was shaped, if the log would roll up onto the rock bucket easy enough or if it would just push. And it looks like the logs are rolling up real easy, working really well. I'm really happy with how this is all working out. I decided to move all the wood to just the other side of the fence of the barn parking pad. Had a little bit of wood stacked up there, seemed like a good spot. Underneath some bushes, kind of out of sight, not a nice eyesore for the neighbors. I didn't realize how much wood we had until I started moving it and stacking it here. We have quite a bit. I really need to get splitting. Now we're going to clean up this pile of pallets and old dock planks. My parents got a new dock up north of their cabin, so they asked me if I wanted the old wood from the old dock, and I said sure. We used a lot of the wood to build shelves in the barn. We also used some of it to build firewood storage out by where we boil our maple syrup. So it's come in handy, but we need to find a better spot to stick these and clean them up, so we'll probably move them over by the old duck coop again. I was hoping to move both these pieces in one shot, just picking them up from the end like this. Unfortunately, they were too long, so they didn't stay on the forks. It actually ended up working out pretty good, picking them up individually from the side. When I drove over to the pile where I was going to store them, I was able just to drop them. If I would have picked them up from the end, it would have been a lot more difficult to get them in there than where I wanted them. last thing I need to clean up is this pallet of old Halloween decorations. At our old house, we used to go all out for Halloween. Since we moved out to the country, there's no trick-or-treat out by us really, so there's no point in decorating. You can't really see the house from the road, so it just kind of lost its appeal to decorate. So I think it's time to get rid of these decorations.
So now we got all the firewood, logs and stuff moved. We got the old dock pieces moved. We got our old Halloween decorations moved. This right here is the last thing I want to try to move. And what this is our, what we call our pig hanging house. So after we cull in half our pigs, we would hang them in here overnight, and then we'd take them out and butcher them the next day. And we've only used this once for our first batch of pigs. We're only on our second batch of pigs, so this hasn't been used in 2 years now. And it's kind of right where I want to put this garage. So we're going to see if the Kubota can lift this and move this. There's only one way to find out, right?
Now that I got all the weeds kind of cleaned out of the way, I want to go around and see if I can't unscrew all the 4x4s in the bottom that are buried in the ground to try to get this thing to lift right off the 4x4s, and then I can deal with pulling the 4x4s out later. So I was a little nervous when I first started picking up, and nothing budged. It didn't even start lifting off the 4x4s. So I tried rocking it, it wasn't really doing much. So then I shifted into 4-wheel drive, and then I was able to really start working things loose.
Well, I am really impressed. I thought we would be able to just take these screws out and maybe lift this thing off the 4x4s. I did not expect this thing to pull all 4x4s out of the ground. I mean, it's out. This little tractor blows my mind on what you can do with it. Here's the proof. So, all right, I'm gonna try to get these legs off, and then we'll go get this thing stored away.
I decided to throw a ratchet strap around the pig hanging house just to hold it to the forks, because I'm about to start hitting the 4x4s with hammers, and with it being somewhat unstable and top heavy, I didn't want to run the risk of it falling over on me. Plus, that should also help hold it in place while I transport the pig house. So what I didn't remember at the time is those 4x4s are actually screwed from the inside of the joist as well, which there was no access to underneath with it on the ground. And I didn't remember that, so that house was never going to lift off the 4x4s. So thankfully, the 4x4s came out of the ground, otherwise this project would have gotten a lot more difficult. So I'm going to go around, unscrew from underneath, take the hammer, pound out the 4x4s, and move this thing to its final home.
So I got to say that was a little bit sketchy bringing it over here because the thing's so top heavy, and it wasn't quite, the load wasn't quite centered. It was kind of heavy off to the left, so I could kind of see the right side tipping a little bit. But I took it really, really slow, and we made it over here, and it's on these 4x4s, and it's pretty stable. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. So again, super impressed with what that Kubota could do. I never thought that this was going to go as well as it did, and I thought it was going to struggle a lot more. Very happy with it. Well, I got all this stuff moved out of the way. I can kind of see what I'm working with here, and the grade's a lot lower than I thought it was here. It slopes down in almost every direction to this one point, which is kind of about where the center of that garage is going to be, or about where my tractor will sit when I'm trying to restore it and take it apart. So that's not going to do. I'm going to have to fill this in and regrade this. So the next step was to just build a garage, but that's not going to happen. So I'll have to start on another project to get dirt to finish this project. So I'll probably end up doing that in another video. Hopefully you guys found this interesting. I know moving that building was pretty exciting, at least nerve-wracking and exciting for me. I'm like so happy it worked out the way it did. If you found it interesting, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Like it. Consider subscribing to the channel. Obviously we still got grading to do here, the temporary garage to build. Got another grading project I got to get started to get dirt for this project. So a lot coming up. Don't want to miss it. Please consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.